So when I was younger, I did play a lot of sports. I played soccer, ran cross country, played volleyball, was on the swim team. As I got older, I didn't go into college athletics. I actually was an art major, but I have found personal training as a way to kind of put myself through college and, make funds. Ended up loving it so much that I quit art school and went full-time into the fitness industry. Opened my own gym, had a gym for about 6 years after having trained privately for another 6 years. So about 12 years in the fitness industry. And then I found Tough Mudder, which some people are, pretty familiar with.
Yeah.
And I started out doing that as a way to take clients to an event and have kind of a goal to work towards, build team camaraderie and all of that. Ended up getting really competitive with it when I first started really racing, 2012, 2013, just kind of getting into competitive stuff. I was carb dominant, just like the normal, healthy diet that like trainers are told to tell their clients to do, eating 6 to 8 times a day and, the lean meats or whatever you want to call it, low fat diet. And got picked up by a professional team in 2015. They were Battle Frog, which was a mandatory obstacle completion course. I had a really successful couple of years running 2015 to 2017, but ended the 2017 season with adrenal dysfunction. So the typical, race nutrition goos and gummies and, all the high sugar, high glucose nutrition supplements were tearing my stomach apart. Right. That was another reason that I kind of went towards the keto route, because I could start a race without anything in my system, because if I ate before a race, I was destroyed within miles. Edema, my hands would swell, my feet would swell, my face would swell. I would end up, 10 pounds heavier at the end of the race rather than, looking a little bit depleted. So the GI thing was a big hit for me as far as like why I kind of started my route towards fat adaptation. I gained 30 pounds in a month. I didn't realize it was adrenal dysfunction, so I thought that it was just a lack of training hard enough, which if you train harder when you have adrenal dysfunction, obviously turns out the opposite. It started presenting as VTAC and arrhythmia. Had a resting heart rate of 127. Everything was just kind of out of whack. Didn't understand what was going on. Went through numerous tests, POTS test, where they had to wear the heart rate monitor for 48 hours, the works. Ended up finally being sent to an endocrinologist who found that I was having no cortisol response. Was sent for hormone testing. I had 0 testosterone, 0 progesterone. So basically I was in perimenopause at 33. And so I contacted Peter after still using Vespa, and I was still, I saw those 2 successful years, but I had tried to do this on my own and nothing was working. And Peter got me lined out, finally kind of took me by the shoulders and shook me and was like, you have to listen to me. You can't do this by yourself. Like, you dug yourself into this hole because of what you were doing. You have to follow my instructions now and let me, take the reins. Since working with Peter, everything is, kind of falling back in line. The adrenal weight's finally coming off. I'm still on top of the podium, so that feels good. But just the progression is crazy how it's worked. Actually, finally putting both pieces together and using Vespa and the OFM protocol, synergistically, it's changed everything. Going through the hard reset was pretty easy, simply because I was already used to fasting, intermittent fasting, the keto lifestyle, or the fat dominant lifestyle. It was more so that I had to have an understanding of the micronutrient side, which I think is what most people don't really dig enough into, and why keto doesn't necessarily work for athletes, because the micronutrient side is so important compared to just eating enough fat. So I might have been eating enough fat, but I wasn't eating enough of everything else. I didn't have, the desiccated liver, and I definitely didn't have enough magnesium. I wasn't eating organ meats and nose to tail of any kind. So that alone was what I feel like, that and Peter making me take a step back and pulling back from training so much and racing so much. Those two key points were what pulled me out of adrenal dysfunction, I feel. 2018 was my first true ultra race. Now, I had been doing ultra obstacle course racing prior to that. So 12-hour, 24-hour events. And that's what I was really good at in the 2017 year, I believe. So it was a pretty easy transfer to go from ultra endurance obstacle racing to ultra endurance running. The miles were already there. I just had to get used to not having it broken up by climbing things and crawling through things and carrying heavy stuff. So through Peter's guidance and OFM and his disruptive training or disruptive periodization training, ended up on top of the podium quite a bit. So I had a pretty successful first year of ultra running. Well, I feel like Vespa and OFM have really changed everything for me. Vespa, I can go now and do, I had a training run at a race a couple of weekends ago. It was a 50K. I had 2 Vespa and 1 package of honey stingers. And those were just, kind of strategic. It was a heart rate based training run. And I still actually came out on top of the podium. So I think I was first female and 7th overall. And that was a training run. So compared to me going into a race, as a race, towing the line, getting ready, and before with the nerves and the stress and, not heart rate training, I was, fueling on glucose and carbs and everything else, and having those GI issues, grabbing whatever I could from an aid station table. Now I have a system and a protocol that I follow, and I don't have GI issues. I don't really even get nervous before a race anymore. The butterflies are there because, you're excited and ready to run, but I don't have am I going to be able to finish? Am I going to be able to go without GI issues? Am I going to be able to not vomit while I'm running? Am I going to end up, 10 pounds heavier with bloating? And so I don't have to stress about any of those things anymore. I know my training is on point. I know my nutrition is on point. Now with OFM and Vespa and Peter's guidance, I know what I'm setting myself up for. I know how I want to feel when I finish, and I know I'm going to feel that way. I can do a 100-mile run, on Saturday to Sunday, and by Monday morning, I can go out for a recovery run, no problems. I don't have the muscle fatigue. I don't have the joint pain and the stiff feet. It feels like you're walking on nails all day. I'm not exhausted. I sleep better. I get all of that recovery within a extremely condensed period of time. How you would feel a week after a 100-miler is how I feel the next day or 18 hours later. I'm a strong believer in the fact that you have to kind of N1 yourself. You have to have that single person experiment. You can't judge what it's going to do for you if you don't experience it. I would tell everyone out there to bite the bullet, just do it. I struggled with actually following the protocol word for word and doing exactly what Peter said, and I dug myself into a hole because I felt like I could do it on my own. And there's so much more that goes into it to do it properly that you really can't do it on your own. There's nuances. Every single thing is directed at each individual person. It's not just a program that you can follow each step and here's the outcome. It's, you follow one step and you might go in 3 different directions depending on how that first step happened. So you have to jump the gun. You have to just put it all in and do it and let it take you where it's going to take you.